Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome to my Tiny Talks podcast, the show where we'll dive into self-love, inner child healing, and discovering your soul's purpose. I look forward to chatting with you every single Tuesday and Thursday and helping you grow exponentially in all areas of your life. Without further ado, here's today's Tiny Talk. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to my Tiny Talks podcast. I am your host, Jessie Brown, and I am so excited to be here with you all, where we are going to dive into week 45 of Tiny Talks. I am as excited as always to dive into today's content with you guys, and I truly hope that today's episode is one that inspires you to just open your thoughts, open your mind, open your curiosity of just reflecting on your life and your goals. And today we're going to dive into a lot of goals and habit talking. And today's topic is about imagining if we treated every day like New Year's and focusing on 5 reasons of why our resolutions and goals typically don't stick. And so I thought of this episode because I was just in the process of setting out my goals for the month, and I realized that New Year's is coming up quicker than we realize sometimes. And when I started to think about that, it really just came upon me that we really treat January and the end of December with so much momentum to create goals and new habits and structures, and they often dwindle out as time goes on. And I think that as a collective, it's become like a norm to almost be lazy in a sense in December, because we know that January is coming up and we're going to put in the work in the gym, and we're really just setting ourselves up for failure without realizing it. And I want you to even just bring awareness right now to maybe some goals and intentions that you set for yourself last New Year's, and asking yourself if A, you even remember what those goals are, B, if you're still doing them, C, if you're tracking them, right? Bringing awareness to those things, because I think that we often do things societally because they are norm. And when everybody around us is setting goals and doing those things, we don't want to feel left out of that. So we'll begin to do the same things. However, when we do that and we're not actually having a structure or a way to set ourselves up for success, we often end up slowly over time dwindling away from our goals, dwindling away from the habits so that they're not able to actually be concrete to set us up. And so we end up feeling like we're falling off track. And then the next year comes around and we kind of rinse and repeat and do the same thing over and over again. And so my goal for today's episode is to just bring awareness to you and to inspire you to set concrete goals, to build new habits, to shift old habits out of your life and implement new ones that are going to stick and set yourself up for the future that you are striving for and hoping for. So without further ado, let's dive into imagining if we were to treat every day like New Year's and 5 reasons why our New Year's resolutions don't always stick. So I was doing some research for this episode because I really wanted to grab some actual statistics, because not only was I curious about how other folks were with this, because I know for myself, I was also guilty for a really long time of, getting that momentum and setting those goals and hearing everybody else's goals. And you see it on social media, right? And it's like a hashtag. It's like a basically societal claim that it's time to change your life. New year, new me, right? We hear those things all the time, but how often do we hear those things in April, in May, in June, right? They slowly start to dwindle away, and it's almost like those that do set goals and are goal-oriented are almost looked at with a different lens because they think that they're hardcore or they're too consistent or whatever it is, which really doesn't make any sense, because at the end of the day, we all are striving for optimal health, to look our best, to feel our best. And that comes from setting ourselves up for success. And so one study that was conducted by researchers at the University of Scranton found that 23% of people quit their resolutions after just 1 week. After 1 week, almost a quarter of the population that they researched for this study had quit their resolutions. Like, that is so fascinating to think about for a moment, that a quarter of the people after 7 days quit their resolution that they had set for themselves. And to me, when I hear that stat, all I can think of is so many people that let themselves down, that made promises to themselves and let themselves down. And I do just want to say that we often do this because a lot of us don't know how to set up goals for success. We don't know how to set up habits for success because it does take practice and it takes conscious effort to know how to do these things. And these are things that are just new coming into my awareness by researching and Googling and studying and reading ways that we can help our habits. And I've been talking a lot about the book Atomic Habits on my podcast recently, because I think in order to set ourselves up for a lot of things in life, it does come down to the habits and things that we're doing every single day. And so the reason I want to talk about this is so that we can build that foundation first, because once we have that foundation, everything else can flame off of that. But if we don't have that baseline structure or know how to even set ourselves up, we're often letting ourselves down over and over and over again, which, as we know, when we do that, we're depleting our self-worth. We're depleting how we view ourselves and our standards for ourselves. And when we do that, we don't feel like we have the belief or the confidence to even set new goals and strive for them. And so it can really become this toxic infinity cycle where we're setting ourselves up for failure, feeling like crap, and then going through that motion over and over again. So when I heard that stat, or read that stat, I guess, that 23% of people from this study gave up their resolutions after just 1 week, I honestly was not really surprised, and a part of me thought that it would be higher, but then another part of me just realizes how many of us don't know how to set ourselves up for success. And then the next part of the study was that only 19% of individuals were actually able to stick to their goals long term. So only 19% of the folks were actually able to maintain and hold on to the goals and the habits that they had set for themselves. And so on a statistical point, that's really not that high level of probability of success. And I think that we can do so much better, right? We can all do so much better, but it's about knowing the ways that we're going wrong, knowing why it is that we fail. Because again, this isn't taught to us. We're not taught how the brain works and how habits are set. Because if 40 to 60% of the things that we're doing every single day are based off of a habit, you can see how it can really take a lot of time and commitment and effort to rewire our brain to shift that and to relearn and establish new habits. And so I'm now going to dive into 5 reasons that our resolutions and our goals don't stick. Because I think in order for us to treat every day like New Year's and treat our habits seriously throughout the whole year and not just for 1 day or 1 month, we really have to know where it is that we're going wrong. And I do just want to preface that this isn't about feeling shameful or feeling guilty or feeling less than, because even just hearing that statistic, you can hear how many of us struggle with this. Because if setting new habits and doing these things was easy, that number wouldn't be so high, right? So just knowing that it's nothing that you've done wrong, but it's about how we can bring awareness to it now so we're able to shift that and set our future self up for success. And the thing is with all of these and with anything in life is that you have to want it. You have to truly want the things that you're saying, not just doing them because you feel like you need to say them or you need to set a resolution in order to fit in. And I think that that really is a large way that we end up failing, is that we're not doing it for the right intentions. We're not doing it for our core heart and reasons of why we're wanting to do it. We're trying to do it to fit into society, to portray ourselves and to look good. And so without further ado, I'm now going to dive into 5 reasons of why our resolutions don't stick. So the first reason, large reason of why our goals don't stick is kind of what I was just chatting about. And that's that we're not ready to change. We're not actually ready to give up the bad habits, quote unquote, that we're doing to shift them into something else. And so when we do that, we're letting ourselves down, because we often, have that mentality of what should I do, not what do I want to do, right? There's a difference there of what should I be doing and what do I want to be doing. And if we're not ready to make conscious changes and we're just telling ourselves these things and letting ourselves down, again, that's when that cycle begins. So for example, going to the gym is like one of the biggest resolutions that everybody always hears, right? New year, new me, gonna work on my fitness, eat healthy, right? Grind it out. But if we're not actually ready to change, it's going to be really, really hard to form a new habit, because maybe we go for 1 day, maybe 2, maybe 3, and then there's no excitement, right? We don't see that instant gratification. Because that's the thing about us humans, and I'm going to chat about that a couple times in today's podcast, is that we like to have that instant gratification, right? We like that instant pleasure. It's the same when we go to the grocery store and we buy junk food and we eat the junk food. We feel really, really good when we're buying it and when we're eating it, of doing the action. But whenever we're done that, we often feel crummier, right? And that's because our actual spike in dopamine and spike in hormones happens from the action of talking about it and thinking about the outcome. But doing the actual work often doesn't give us that adrenaline boost until it becomes a habit, right? So it's almost like we're getting outside of our comfort zone to switch our mentality and switching our habits. And that can be really, really hard. And so again, my first reason of why our resolutions don't stick is because we're not actually ready to change. We're not ready to change the things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And if the things that we're telling ourselves and the actions that we're doing aren't on the same page, they're always going to be in conflict. And so both of them have to be in. And I do just want to preface by saying that being not ready to change and knowing that you want to change but knowing it's going to be difficult are two very, very different things, right? Knowing that it's going to be challenging to go to the gym 5 times a week, or knowing that it's going to be challenging to cut down on junk food and to eat more wholesome foods, but knowing the outcome that we desire in the future and holding on to that is different than just being stuck in our ways of not wanting to change. And so that is one of the biggest reasons of why our resolutions and our goals and habits across the board don't stick, is because we want the outcome, but we're not actually willing to change the things that we're doing, the stories we're telling ourselves, the people we're surrounding ourselves with, etc., to get to that goal or to that resolution. And so if that is you and you're finding yourself wanting to create goals or wanting to create new habits, but you're not willing to change the things that you're doing, you're often not going to. You're setting yourself up for failure. And so bringing awareness to the things that you actually want to change. What are the areas that you're actually willing to put in the work? And knowing that, no, it's not going to be easy. It is going to be challenging, but you have to be willing to change and adapt your life and your environment, or else you wouldn't be trying to create a new habit in the first place. The second reason why our resolutions often don't stick, and this is like the biggest one that I think of why people fail, quote unquote, at like anything in life. And that's because we are not tracking. And I know that that can be a really abnormal thing to think about until you get into that headspace. And actually the other day I was chatting with my partner and he was saying, I used to think that writing down goals and writing down these things was really kind of stupid. But now I'm realizing how much more I'm getting done, right? He's going to the gym 5 days consistently every week. He's monitoring his finances. He's tracking his spending. He's doing all those things. And before, he kind of just had the mentality of going with the flow. I'll figure it out as I go. And to hear him say that I thought that tracking was stupid, and I'm realizing now how much it really does pay off, really just made me realize how much it does just take time and effort to get into the habits of doing things to see those results. But tracking is just such an amazing way to put everything out in front of you, to hold yourself accountable, to see where it is that you're going wrong, where it is that you're being consistent, where it is that you're letting yourselves down. Because monitoring and tracking your progress is crucial. It's crucial in all areas of our life. But again, it's something that's not taught to us. And when it's something that's not taught to us and ingrained in us from a young age, we often don't have it wired within us. But I do often think back, like sometimes when I look at even our school system, right? Like our schedule is set for us for which classes we're going to be in at what time, where we have to be, etc. And so we naturally just learn as we go through school that that is where we have to be. And so imagine if we begun to set up our life like that, beginning to monitor and track the things that we're doing so that we're able to hold ourselves accountable. Because when we have a clear vision and we write things down, not only are we 40 times more likely to accomplish something if we write it down, but we're also able to just bring awareness to it and to see it every day. I started a contract with myself a month ago of 10 daily non-negotiables that I wanted to commit to. And when I was able to create my Excel spreadsheet and put the dates and track the days that I was hitting and missing, I was able to track my progress of seeing on certain days that I was missing going to the gym or missing eating my 3 meals a day, my energy was lower, my mood was lower. And so when I was able to see that in front of me, it just encouraged me and inspired me of why I'm tracking in the first place. And so that is the second reason of why our resolutions typically don't stick, is because we're not tracking anything. And if we don't have a target to aim for, we're really just shooting out into the sky hoping for the best. And so if we don't actually have a concrete goal of what it is that we're going for and backtracking of how we're going to get there, we're really just spiraling. And that doesn't have anything to hold us accountable, because if we have no rhyme or reason of why we should do something, we often don't do it because we let ourselves off the hook. And so I encourage you to set up some kind of tracking system for yourself. Maybe that's 3 habits a day that are non-negotiables, and that's a great place to start. I'm in group coaching right now, and that is what we begin with. We have 3 habits that we do every single day, and we track whether we hit them or whether we don't. And so you're able to look back and recognize where it is that you're letting yourself down. How are you feeling on those days that you're letting yourselves down versus those days that you're holding yourself accountable? And so, for example, even right now, I'm recording this episode on a Saturday. I have committed to myself to record 2 episodes on Saturdays and 2 episodes on Monday. Whenever I miss those days or I don't record, I beat myself up big time, because I know where my standards are. I know where my expectation is. I know what my tracking is. And when I miss that, especially when you're consistent, it becomes really, really hard to miss or to skip. And that is, again, a large thing that's talked about in Atomic Habits, is finding a way to make your habits pleasurable. How can you reward yourself? For me, that's seeing that I'm 45 weeks consistent with my podcast. And so if I were to miss a week, that would basically trump me up of everything that I've been doing. And I don't want to let myself down, let you down, let my listeners down that are waiting consistently for these to be posted and uploaded. And so finding what that is for you. One of the strategies that was in the book was buying a bucket of marbles or something in an empty jar. And every time you do something, taking one of the marbles out and putting it into the other container. So you have an actual visual of tracking your progress. And so that is a huge way of why we fall off our resolutions. It's because we're not actually tracking it or finding a way to hold ourselves accountable. So find those ways that you can hold yourself accountable. Create an Excel spreadsheet, create a to-do list, create a contract, create non-negotiables, and track them every single day. The third reason of why we often don't achieve our goals and don't stick to them really does stem off of the no tracking, but it's that we have no planning or approach. And so I want you to even just think of going on a road trip, picking a destination. How the heck are you going to get to your destination if you don't know which direction to go? You could be spending so much time going completely the wrong direction when you should have been going the other direction. It's no different with our goals. How are you going to achieve your goal and ingrain these habits if you don't even know the direction in which you're trying to go? Right? If you don't know what needs to shift or what needs to change or where you need to pour your energy, your commitment, your time, how are you going to accomplish it? And so setting yourself up, maybe it's changing your daily routines. Maybe it's changing the time that you wake up. Maybe it's meal prepping better. Maybe it's setting your gym clothes out the night before so you remember to go the next day. Setting your gym shoes in your vehicle so you don't forget them. Right? Picking a gym that's on your way home from work so as you drive by, you think about it. Right? So if we don't have a plan or an approach to actually conquer our goal and we're just saying, I'm going to work out, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to, journal every day, I'm going to read, I'm going to whatever, but we don't actually know a plan or an approach or a way that we're going to do that, we often end up doing it for a very short period of time and then again, letting ourselves off the hook because we didn't have a direction in the first place. And so how can you set a plan up? How can you set a roadmap up for yourself? And again, the aim of this whole episode is to treat every day and every month like it's New Year's, having that momentum every day, right? We don't have to wait for one day of the year to set our intentions and to refocus. It's important that we do that consciously every single day, rewiring, bringing awareness to what's working, what's not working. Am I finding success in this direction? Am I holding myself accountable? Where am I letting myself down? right? What is my goal of how many days of the week I want to go to the gym? How much time do I want to be committing when I'm there? Maybe it's even getting as specific like I like to do of what workout I'm going to be doing, right? Because when we make promises to ourselves and we actually commit to them and follow through and we build our self-worth, we do get that same boost of adrenaline, right? We get that feel-good feeling. Because when we hold ourselves accountable and we do the things we say we're going to do, it feels really, really good. And so thinking of those times that you've gone to the gym and regretted it, right? Those things that you want to do in alignment, you won't regret them once you do them. But it's about remembering that, of getting through that short-term uncomfortableness and grinding it out to get to that other side. And so setting a plan and an approach is absolutely crucial to set yourself up for success. So asking yourself, what will I have to shift to make this work? What will I have to adapt to make this work? And again, writing it down is huge. You are, again, 40 times more likely to accomplish something by writing it down. So map out your month, map out your week, map out your day. Get very, very specific and stick to that plan. And when you don't stick to that plan, notice how that feels and what maybe needs to shift to work for you. Number 4, the fourth way that we often let ourselves down and lose track of our resolutions. And this is one that is so true and I am so guilty of, and I want you to ask yourself if maybe you're guilty of this, but it's being overconfident, right? Like when New Year comes around, we're like, yeah, I can do anything. Like, oh, I'm so pumped up. Like, and everyone around us is pumped up. So we feel that momentum. We feel the energy. We're excited. It's a new year, refreshing, restarting, right? It's really, really empowering. But many people, we worry that lack of confidence is what's going to hold us back. But I want you to think about New Year's for a minute, because we get so pumped up and overconfident that we often think our goals will be easy. And we often set these huge, often unrealistic resolutions and expectations for ourselves. And then when it becomes a challenge or it's challenging to accomplish them, and because it becomes too much, we give up. And again, as I expressed earlier, humans like to have that instant gratification. We want it and we want it now, right? And so when we don't get that instant gratification, we often give up. And so you have to be willing to tough it out to get to your goals, and being realistic and realizing where your level of comfortability is at. Because it's okay to be overconfident and to strive for big goals, but it's also about setting ourselves up for success. Because if we set ourselves up for something that is not even within arm's reach, we're going to feel like we don't have the ability or the capability to accomplish it. And so I like to strive for huge goals, but then backtrack on a monthly basis of what my goal is to accomplish that big goal. So for example, my podcast, I have a number in my mind of one day getting my podcast to 1 million downloads. So that's backtracking. How many will I need to get in a month? How many will I need to get in a day, per episode, etc., to set myself up for that? But I know that by recording my 4 episodes a week, by uploading twice a week, by publishing, by doing those things consistently, that is striving for that bigger goal. So having those things attainably that you can reach and set yourself up for, also getting outside your comfort zone, but that help you grow to accomplish that bigger goal. But when we just come in it with the headspace of, I'm going to lose 50 pounds and I'm going to eat healthy every day and I'm going to do all these things, we know that we're not going to do those things. And we're not going to do them because our mind is wired in such a very specific way of creating new habits. And again, I encourage so much for you to read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, because he just demonstrates very, very clearly and precisely why it is that we don't achieve new habits and achieve new goals. And that's because when we want that instant gratification, we often give up. And if we give up something, of course we're not improving by 1%. Of course we're not getting closer to our goals. And so recognizing where your level of confidence is at. Because yes, we want to feel good and we want to feel excited and we should feel somewhat confident about it. But our goals should also somewhat be uncomfortable and challenge us and strive us to get outside of our comfort zone. Because if they didn't, they wouldn't be a goal in the first place. So recognizing where you're at with that confidence piece, setting yourselves up for success, knowing where your baseline is, but also what your max is, and finding that in between ground. That is one of the biggest reasons, again, of why I think that we let ourselves down, even just on a day-to-day basis, is because we're so overly confident, specifically also when we're around other people, because it sounds good to say that we have big goals. It sounds good to say that we're going to lose 50 pounds and that we eat clean every day and we go to the gym every day. But how are you actually setting yourself up to do that? Where are you at in your confidence with your goals? And so checking in with that for yourself. Number 5, so my last point of why it is that we often don't achieve our resolutions. And that's because we often forget to look at what has to be given up. Because everything that you add to your life or bring into your life means that you have to be willing to give something up. But we often only focus on what we're gaining or what we want to bring in, and we forget that we have to sometimes leave things behind to do that. We have to make sacrifices, right? It's the yin and the yang. It's that happy balance. It's that teeter-totter. When we're wanting to bring in new things and new habits and new awareness and new goals, we know that old paradigms have to shift in our life. We know that awareness has to shift. We know that our daily routines have to shift. Because if nothing shifts and everything stays the same, then we're not setting ourselves up to achieve our new goals. And so recognizing and bringing awareness that setting ourselves up for new goals is going to take sacrifice. It is going to take painful things that we have to get rid of and remove from our life. And so, for example, if we're putting in the work at the gym, it might mean less time watching TV at night. Or if we are someone who likes to work out in the morning to cross it off our list, it might mean waking up earlier in the morning, right? And so we have to have that give and tug of things that we're doing in our life. And again, I'm going to quote from Atomic Habits of basically habit stacking. So for example, of seeking that pleasure of habit stacking, maybe for you, it's watching your favorite show while you're on the treadmill at the gym. Maybe it's reading your favorite book while you're on the bike or the treadmill at the gym, right? So it's how can you habit stack and do things that you want to do with things that you know that you need to do. And so for me, for laundry, I absolutely hate folding laundry. It's just one thing I despise doing. I am someone who loves to clean. I love cleaning homes. I love doing dishes, organizing, whatever, but I do not like doing the laundry. And so for me, I know that whenever it's laundry day or I know I have to fold the laundry, I like to put on a podcast or put on a movie or put on something that is pleasurable while I'm doing something that I really don't enjoy. And so that is a huge way that we're able to compromise this point of having to give something up. So how can we kind of meet ourselves halfway? How can we give ourselves some pleasure and some rewards for doing the things that we don't want to do? Because our mind is just designed that if something doesn't give us any gratification or any outcome or any pleasure, it's likely not going to stick as a habit because our mind doesn't like it, right? Our mind is designed to find those things that spark joy, spark happiness, give us those hormones, give us those good feel moments, right? But when we're not getting that, it can be really, really hard to have those habits or to set ourselves up for success. And so bringing awareness to what it is that you might have to sacrifice or give up in order to bring in more of what it is that you want. So again, asking that question of, is this something that I'm wanting and desiring, or is this something that makes me comfortable? And so before you commit to your new habits and your new resolutions and your new goals, you need to recognize what you will gain from the new habits. Think about what you will need to give up before you need to make the change. Replacing habits with new one takes time and it takes commitment. But if you're able to bring awareness to what you're going to gain from that new habit, because if you've set yourself a goal, you've often set it for a reason. There's a part of you that wants to achieve it or you wouldn't have set it in the first place. And again, that point that I made earlier about doing it for yourself, of actually wanting to change, it has to be something that you truly want in your core, of remembering why it is you're doing it in the first place. So maybe it is fitness, maybe it is losing weight, maybe it is being healthier, right? So just embracing that identity of I'm doing this to become healthier. I'm doing this for myself, for my future self, right? Not, oh, I guess I'm doing this because everybody else is doing it. There's a different mindset there and a different shift. But recognizing that it will take sacrifice. It will take changing and adapting things. But that is how we grow and that is how we evolve. And so that is my fifth point of why we often fall off of our goals and resolutions, is because we often forget that that takes sacrifice and giving up things that we sometimes want to do versus things that we know that we need to do to get us one step closer. And so based on those points, I just want to highlight that we all have the ability to treat every day like New Year's and to pause and pivot and to reflect on where we're going, to hone down and stop right now of where you want your life to go. And when we bring awareness to why habits and goals aren't sticking and why maybe this hasn't worked for us in the past, it gives us the power to shift. Because again, like I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, it isn't about making you feel shameful or less than, but it's about bringing awareness to these things so that you're able to set yourselves up for future success. Because I just want nothing but the best for every single listener of this show and for honestly everybody as a collective to just grow. In my intro to my podcast, it's to grow exponentially in all areas of your life. But if we don't recognize the backbone of why we're failing, we often think it's something wrong with us. But I hope that even just hearing that statistic, that 23% of people after 1 week give up their habit, helps you just realize that as a collective, this is something that we need to normalize and bring awareness to. Because if we're all so guilty of this and we all struggle with it so much, we can realize that it's because our minds really are wired very similarly. And so bringing awareness to that we have also the capability to shift it. And so in closing for today, just recognizing that there's roughly 143 days from the time that I published this episode to New Year's. And I want you to just bring awareness that statistically it takes 66 days for new habits to become ingrained. 66 days, and that could take longer, that could take less time, depending on what it is. But so recognizing there's 143 days until the New Year's. And so why wait for 143 days to let yourself off the hook when you could start now? Why wait for 1 month of the year to get momentum? Imagine between now and New Year's, those 143 days, if you improve by just 1% every day from now till then, imagine how much further you'll be. But if you just have that mindset of, oh, it's summer and I'm just going to drink and eat whatever I want, and then Christmas comes around, or then it's Thanksgiving and then it's Christmas, right? We let ourselves off the hook because we have all these excuses. And then it becomes a collective norm again in New Year's to shift that. But we can shift that right now. Thinking ahead, if New Year's was next week, what do you think the goals are that you would tell yourself? Is it the same goals that you've told yourself for the last 10 years? How can we hone in and make that different now? Based on those 5 points that I shared, how can you reflect on maybe how you've gone wrong on those? How can you set yourself up and your future self up for success? Again, I encourage you reading the book Atomic Habits, learning about the brain, learning about how it is that we as humans adapt and wire our brain to create new habits. Because we all do things for a reason and we all often fail and fall off. And I don't love the word fail, but we often let ourselves down for the same reasons. And so it's about bringing awareness to that. We all have infinite capability and possibilities and just the capacity to accomplish so many great things. But it's often because we don't set ourselves up for success. We're not in it fully. We're doing it for the wrong intentions. We're overconfident, or we're just not there yet. And so recognize the things that you really, really want and remembering why you want them in the first place. I'm going to have more episodes coming out soon about setting our goals up very specifically, because there are ways that we can set our goals up for success. And so I truly hope today's episode just brings awareness to you and hopefully inspires you to just want to sit down with your journal and just hone out the things that you want to accomplish and how you are going to set up a system to track that and to get you one step closer to the best next version of yourself. I want to thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart, as always, for tuning into this week's episode of Tiny Talks. This was definitely one that I felt so pulled to share, and I'm so excited to release for you all, and I hope that it just sparks something in your guys' minds. I look forward to chatting with you all next week. Bye, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into this week's episode of Tiny Talks. I absolutely love connecting with you all, so make sure you're following me on Instagram. I am at JessieBrown13. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave a review or share with someone you think would enjoy. I look forward to chatting with you all next week. And remember, get out of your head and into your heart.